Yeah. So going back to the questions, like we're going to go through a couple of these real quick. So the question about mixing lines up, why the coaches always mix the lines up. Well, let's go youth hockey first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There might be a lot of reasons for that. And it's actually in youth hockey a good thing to play with other people. So a lot of people get really hung up. Like I couldn't even tell you, like when my son was going through youth hockey, how many times people say they're always mixing the lines up.
Yeah.
Like why are they mixing the lines up when they like? Okay, so everybody wants to play with the top dog. So, and that's okay. Because and what happens is, as a coach, you might say, okay, let's try it. Well, that didn't work out for your son too well, did it? Because maybe he can't play with this guy, but and then maybe it does work. So you'll never know unless you try in youth hockey. And I think everybody should have an opportunity. You might have a guy that, let's say, is a really offensive player that puts a lot of points. And you might have another guy that hasn't scored a goal in the last 6 months or 4 months. Well, maybe it's a game like I want to get his confidence back. Let's get him on this guy's line, and all of a sudden he puts a puck in there, he has a real good game, feels good about himself. Like there's the psychological reasons, there's a lot of things like that why you might do it. And then in youth hockey, it's just you should play with all the guys. You should actually know what it's like to play with, let's say a number one guy should know what it's like to play with a number 9 guy, and vice versa. It's actually really good. Learn how to play your off wing. Learn how to play center. It's okay. Minor hockey, it's okay. Now, when you get to junior, and I have this question. I had this question about not necessarily because people think you got to get used to playing with the guys all the time, and that might be true sometimes. Like Gretzky and Yari Curry, that was magic, and then another guy on the wing would be like has got to complement them. But Gretzky Curry works. Lemieux and Jagger, that seemed to work. Ovechkin Marner Matthews seems to work. But like the third guy, maybe not so much. Anyways, you will always be playing with different players, and it'll be juggled. So you're playing now. We get to the OHL or your pro level or college level. Now a coach is coaching to win hockey games, so he doesn't really have a lot of empathy for who you're playing with. You're playing. Now there's different ways that some guys do it, and there's some that I don't really get, and some that I do. Like for me, when I coach mixing up lines, this would be my thing. I would have like let's say in junior pro, I would have my top 3 lines I got 4 lines. I don't care really who you are, but if you're not, like say you're a number 1 guy and you're just not going. I have no problem taking a guy, moving him up a line, maybe even a lower, like the 4th line guy, and moving him up and saying, okay, you take a couple shifts to figure it out. And if he does, if he comes back and responds, good, that worked. And if he doesn't, well, then someone else should actually be playing, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
If you're dogging,
it's your coaching style.
If I'm dogging it, some guys will take 2 lines, 3 lines, and they'll just take those 6, 9 guys and just mix them up, and they'll never let the 4th line move up. Is it right or wrong? I don't know. That's a philosophy. But this guy's trying to win and develop players for the future. The other side of this thing is that once you get to the junior pro college level, or not parents, when you get to the junior level, is you don't have any, actually pro too. You have no idea the pressure coaches and GMs get from, not parents anymore. The parents still try, but agents. So now you got to look at this kind of stuff. If on my team or over the last 5 years, you're running your organization, and you've got 5 or 6 of my players on your team, kind of every year, and deals like I make sure that things work out for both of us. All of a sudden, you start pissing around with my players, right? A top dog, and you start treating them the way that I don't want him to be treated, or he doesn't like to be treated. Well, we have an issue. Who should win this battle should be the coach,
right?
Because he needs to play the top dogs. But a lot of the times the agents are such a pain in the ass, and that, well, if you don't have him, well, then this guy's not reporting next year. Or you draft one of my first round guys that's going to college, I'm not letting them come, or vice versa. So there is other pressures and there's other issues besides just within the game. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure some guys cave to it and some guys don't give a rip, but it is a pressure.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's the incentive ends up being, regardless of what level you're at, the incentive ends up being to mix the lines up as the coach. Because if you're in those young years, it's so that everyone plays with everyone kind of thing, and we're not trying to keep set lines and set roles or anything. Then as you get older, the incentives are to win. So if your kid doesn't feel like having a good game today, I don't have time to wait for him to get going.
That's right.
I need somebody who's going to go. So the incentive is always going to be to change up the lines. Now, some coaches have more patience than others. Like to me, I'm of the belief, and most people have this with special teams, which is interesting. They don't have it for 5-on-5, but they have it for special teams. We keep the power play together even if it's not going.
Yeah.
But 5-on-5, we shuffle the lines up.
Yeah.
Right? But when you're going into the power play now, the incentive is to keep the guys together because these are probably your horses. These are probably the guys that will be the ones to get the job done most of the time, most likely on the team. So are you going to shuffle the power play all the time? No. Are you going to shuffle the 5-on-5? Yes, because the 5-on-5 is where you can make the little differences in the game. So if you're having a sleepy game, I don't have time to wait for you to get going. Power play, you have a little extra time and space, and maybe you're one of the top guys, so I have more patience for you to get going in that domain kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So as the people watching hockey, understand that is the incentive for the coach always. The incentive always ends up being to change the lines if something isn't working. It's never to wait and see, Yeah. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. So that was the next piece, is talking about the power play, because that was one of the questions. Why do they always keep the power play together?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say youth hockey, because that's a tougher one to swallow.
Yeah.
The bottom line is the power play. If you have a power play unit at Bantam Midget, it's probably because they're probably your most offensive players, or they system players that understand, okay, there's a bumper guy. That bumper guy has this job to do. He's not necessarily going to score. He needs to just touch the puck around, or a tip guy. So not everybody could stand there and tip pucks.
Yep.
Not everybody could be a bumper guy. Not everybody could be the quarterback. Not everybody could be the setup guy, right? Or the shooter. So you have to identify guys. So when you're young, that shouldn't be an issue. As you get to Bantam and Midget, it becomes a thing. And guess what? It might seem like it's not working, if it once did, because some coaches don't even know how to do one. But it might seem like it's not working for a game or 2 or 3. And you might say, and it's a legit question, that if you gave someone a chance, because I've seen it happen. You gave me one chance at power play, or on Charlie's team, it was the same thing as a youth. I got one chance and I scored. So okay, so it worked once. So if I took that kid percentage-wise and put him on the ice for 7 out of 10 power plays, that's probably, he might get another one, but the numbers are not going to be in his favor.
Yep.
You're going to have your best opportunity with your best players that do this consistently, because there's times where power plays are just dry.
Yep.
Right? So you have to kind of let them work themselves in. There's a great argument. It's not working. Put someone else in, but you kind of work the bugs out. And do I agree with it all the time? No. But when someone's coaching and they're making a living and their decisions are dependent on someone or making a living, like getting fired or not, they're making the best decisions.
Yeah.
So there's a reason that they keep that together, basically every team for years and years and years.
Yep.
So
I got 2 quick ones on that. So for power play, you were talking about having a bumper guy and a net front guy and all that kind of stuff, and how you said not everybody can do that job, right? So if you're a kid that is, let's say you're the second most offensive kid on the team as a forward, for example. So normally that would end up being like your guy that's on the half wall, maybe not, but let's say it's a guy that's on the half wall or up towards the point so they can control the puck a little bit more. If you're the second guy, the second best on your team, well, that means there's one guy better than you that's going to have that position on the first unit.
Yeah.
If you're not good at being bumper, then just because you're the second best offensive guy with the puck doesn't mean you should be in the bumper spot now on the first power play, because that might just not work.
That might not be. Maybe you pass like shit.
That's right. Or maybe down low when you're not great when the D flex out to pressure you.
Yeah.
So the spot you should be in is in that top of the key kind of role where you get to control the puck a little bit more, but there's somebody on our team that's better than you at that. So that means you're going to be on the second power play unit in that spot, but now you don't have necessarily as good of a net front bumper guy. So now you're getting frustrated because if I was just with the better players, then I would have more opportunity on the power play and do more and whatever. Yeah. But you can't just play in whichever role, or you don't have a good shot. I can't put you on the point for a one-timer if you can't take a shot kind of thing, right?
Well, and this goes back to what we were saying about putting people in where their strength is.
Yeah.
So when I was coaching a really good team, one of the dads had a really good offensive fast player. And a lot of the times when he penalty killed properly, he was really good. But that would only happen 50% of the time because he was so offensive. He wanted to have the little sneak plays and cheat, right? Stick check and try to poke it by, and then we'd be in our own end. But his dad was like, I don't know why you don't put him on the power or the penalty kill all the time, because he always scores on the power play. He gets up, he gets out, he figures out how to get out high, and he gets those breakaways. And I go, yeah, that's a real great way to kill a penalty, is look for breakaways.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the disconnect between dad, like that's looking through your kid's eyes and what's best for him.
Mm-hmm.
But even though it's not the best for him, because he's looking at how his son could get more goals, me as a coach was looking at how we kill penalties properly. And if you get a goal out of it, that's great.
Right.
But then this service he was doing his son by saying this was, would you like him to get another 5 goals on the penalty kill this year, or would you like him to be a good hockey player that can move on to the next level? Because if he penalty kills like that, he's not going to get one shift.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, he'll probably get undressed. You have to do your job first. So, anyways,
so
that was that.
Last point on the peeper for me is you were touching on the percentages kind of thing.
Yeah.
And here's maybe an interesting way to think about the power play. If you have a fantastic power play, what's the percentage normally?
So it's like 30,
25.
Yeah, the
right?
30 is very good.
That's like you're probably the best. If you have a 30% power play, you're probably the best in the league.
Yeah.
So that means 70% of the time you won't score.
That's right.
So that means your power play looks like it's not working.
Yeah.
But it is working. Yeah. If you have the best power play in the league, you're still only getting 30% of the time where you're scoring a goal. You know? So if you think that every power play, the puck should be zipping around and you should be getting all kinds of chances, normally that's not the case. It's very hard to do. To score on the power play, it is very hard to do by the percentage. You will never see a team that's over 30%.
Yeah.
Barely ever.
Very.
And if they do, it's for a small period of time and then they're back under 30.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind too. When you're thinking the power play sucks or it's not clicking or whatever, if you look at the whole year, even in minor hockey, look at the whole year. What's the percentage on the power play for the whole year with this power play unit? If it's somewhere between 20 and 30%, that's a good power play.
Yeah.
It's not a bad power play.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
It's easy to think because they didn't score this game or they didn't score in 2 games that it's not working.
Yeah.
But really, they're a 25% power play. They're actually pretty good together.